Oh, you beautiful disaster. You gorgeous glitch in their carefully coded system. They're saying you did something impossible, aren't they? Something that shouldn't have worked. Something that required years of training, decades of preparation, entire lifetimes of dedication. But you did it on a Tuesday afternoon while eating chips and half watching Netflix. And now their entire world is collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. Let me paint you the picture. They're too terrified to see. While Special Forces operators were doing push-ups at 4 a.m., while chess grandmasters were studying endgame theory until their eyes bled, while Silicon Valley prodigies were burning through their 20s and 80-hour work weeks, you were what? Playing around, experimenting, just seeing what would happen if you pushed this button or pulled that lever. And then boom, you accidentally split the atom of their entire reality. They spent millions on training programs, billions on research and development, entire generations perfecting systems and protocols, Harvard MBAs, crafted strategies in war rooms with whiteboards and expensive consultants. Former Navy SEALs wrote best-selling books about discipline and mental toughness. And you were probably in your pajamas, maybe hadn't even brushed your teeth yet, just fooling around with something that caught your attention for 5 minutes. But here's the thing they'll never admit, the truth that's making them lose sleep and question everything they've ever believed in. What you did wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't some cosmic accident that can be explained away with probability and statistics. No, what you did was worse. You proved that their entire framework, their whole understanding of how excellence works, was built on quicksand. See, they need you to believe in the mythology of effort. They need you to think that greatness comes from suffering, that excellence requires sacrifice, that legendary status is earned through blood, sweat, and carefully documented tears. They built entire industries around this lie. Self-help gurus, motivational speakers, life coaches, all feeding off the idea that if you just work hard enough, if you just follow the right program, you too can achieve what the masters achieve. But you just shattered their entire business model with a yawn and a stretch. You didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate. You didn't have a vision board. You didn't track your macros or optimize your morning routine. You were just playing. And in that play, in that moment of pure, unfiltered curiosity, you did something that their most dedicated disciples couldn't accomplish in a lifetime. 20 years. That's how long Special Operations Forces train to develop the kind of precision, the kind of instinct, the kind of lethal effectiveness that you displayed while basically sleepwalking. They crawl through mud, jump out of planes, survive interrogation scenarios, master 17 different weapon systems. They break their bodies down and rebuild them into machines. And you probably couldn't even do 10 proper push-ups. But that's exactly why you terrify them. Because you didn't follow their sacred path. You didn't pay your dues. You didn't ask permission from the gatekeepers or wait in line for your turn. You just reached out with your untrained, unworthy, unprepared hand and grabbed lightning from the sky like it was nothing, like it was yours all along. Now watch them scramble. Watch them try to explain you away. It was beginner's luck, they'll say, their voices shaking. A statistical anomaly, they'll insist, their hands trembling as they adjust their theories. This doesn't change anything, they'll declare, even as everything changes around them. Because if you can do what you did, if someone can just stumble into legendary status while half asleep and fully bored, then what was all their suffering for? Think about it. Right now, there's a kid who spent the last decade of his life in a dojo, breaking boards and earning belts, believing that mastery comes from repetition and discipline. And you just performed a move that his sensei said would take 30 years to understand. There's a programmer who sacrificed her social life to master 17 programming languages, and you just solved a problem she couldn't crack by randomly mashing keys until something worked. They're having emergency meetings about you. Conference calls with experts trying to figure out how to contain what you've done. We need to study this, they're saying. We need to understand the anomaly. But they can't study what they can't comprehend. They can't analyze what exists outside their framework. You're not a data point on their graph. You're the hand that ripped the graph in half. The military has a term for what you did: force multiplication. It means achieving maximum impact with minimal resources. They spend years teaching soldiers how to do it: strategic thinking, resource management, leverage points. And you force multiplied their entire reality by accident. You weren't even trying to win their game. You were just bored, and in your boredom, you revealed that their game was meaningless. Let's talk about prerequisites, shall we? Those sacred stepping stones they insist everyone must climb. You can't do advanced calculus without basic math. You can't perform surgery without medical school. You can't write a symphony without understanding music theory. Except you just did the equivalent of performing brain surgery with a butter knife while humming a tune you made up, and somehow the patient not only survived but evolved into a new species. This is what's breaking their brains. You violated the sacred order of things. You skipped the tutorial and went straight to the final boss, except you didn't even know it was a boss fight. You thought you were playing with a practice dummy. And you won. Not just won, you achieved a perfect score that the game's own developers didn't know was possible. Every institution in the world is built on the idea of gradual progression. Elementary school leads to middle school, leads to high school, leads to college, leads to graduate school, leads to maybe, if you're very good and very lucky, you get to contribute something meaningful to your field. That's the path. That's the only path. Except you just teleported from the starting line to a finish line that wasn't even on the map. They're looking at your technique under a microscope, trying to understand what you did differently. But that's like trying to understand jazz by counting the notes. You weren't using technique. You were using something much more dangerous: raw, unfiltered intuition. The kind of intuition that their systems are designed to suppress, to train out of people, to replace with proper methodology. And now you've infected others with possibility. That's the real danger. That's why they're truly panicking. Because every person who hears about what you did starts to wonder, what else have they been lying about? What other impossible things might be possible if I just try? You've planted a virus in the collective consciousness, and it's spreading faster than they can contain it. Someone reading this right now is realizing they don't need that certification they've been saving up for. Someone else is understanding that the expert who told them it would take 10 years might have been protecting their own position. Someone is looking at the mountain they've been told to climb and wondering if maybe, just maybe, there's a door at the base that leads straight to the top. You didn't just break a record, you broke the concept of records. You didn't just win a game, you revealed that the game was imaginary. You didn't just succeed, you redefined what success means. And you did it all without meaning to, which is the most beautifully destructive part of this whole cosmic joke. The specialists are huddled in their forums, desperately trying to maintain their relevance. This doesn't diminish the value of proper training, they insist. There's no substitute for experience, they proclaim, but their words sound hollow now, don't they? Like priests insisting on the power of their rituals, while someone in the back row is casually performing miracles. Let's dissect your accident for a moment, because calling it an accident is their last line of defense. If it was intentional, if you meant to do what you did, then their entire worldview collapses. But if it was an accident? Well, accidents can be dismissed. Accidents don't threaten the established order. Accidents are flukes, not features. But here's what they don't understand about your accident. It was the most honest thing that's happened in their field in decades. You approached the problem without preconceptions, without the weight of what you were supposed to do. You didn't know what was impossible, so you didn't limit yourself to what was possible. You were a child playing with blocks, and you built something that their architect said couldn't exist. This is the paradox that's frying their circuits. They spend years teaching people to think outside the box, but they do it inside a bigger box. They encourage innovation, but only within approved parameters. They celebrate mavericks, but only the ones who color inside the lines. And then you came along, and you didn't even see the lines. You weren't thinking outside the box. The special ops soldier trains to eliminate thinking, to make every action pure instinct, but their instinct is cultivated, crafted, carved out through repetition. Your instinct was wild, feral, untouched by their conditioning, and that's why it worked. Because while they were building a better mousetrap, you were busy being the mouse that learned to fly. There's an entire industrial complex built around expertise. Universities, certification bodies, professional associations, licensing boards. Trillions of dollars flow through systems designed to gatekeep knowledge, to portion it out in measured doses, to ensure that only the worthy get access to the sacred mysteries. I'm EY, and you just performed the equivalent of breaking into their vault with a bobby pin you found on the ground. They're having existential crises in boardrooms right now. If someone can do this without our training, without our certification, without our blessing, then what are we even selling? The answer, of course, is nothing. They're selling nothing wrapped in the packaging of everything. They're selling the idea that you need them, and you just proved that you don't. Think about the professor who spent 40 years becoming the world's foremost expert in their field, only to watch you solve their life's work while you were procrastinating on something else entirely. Think about the consultant charging $5,000, 0 cents an hour, for insights you generated for free while daydreaming. Think about the entire pyramid scheme of expertise and how you just revealed it's built on nothing but mutual agreement to pretend it matters. But here's the beautiful part. You didn't set out to destroy anything. Destruction requires intent, planning, purpose. You were just being yourself, following your curiosity, playing with possibilities. And that's exactly why it worked. Because revolution isn't always deliberate. Sometimes the most powerful changes come from someone who doesn't know they're not supposed to be able to change anything. So now we exist in a new reality, one where your accident has rewritten the rules. The old guards are frantically trying to patch the hole you tore in their fabric, but it's too late. The genie's out of the bottle, the cat is out of the bag. The emperor has no clothes, and you're the child who pointed it out while looking for a snack. They'll try to absorb you, of course. They'll offer you positions, titles, honorary degrees. They'll try to bring you into the fold, to make you part of the system you accidentally destroyed. Come teach others how you did it, they'll say. But how can you teach an accident? How can you systematize chaos? How can you institutionalize the very thing that destroyed institutions? Others will try to discredit you. They'll dig through your history, looking for evidence that you secretly trained, that you had help, that you're not what you appear to be. They need to find something, anything, that explains you in terms they can understand. Because if they can't explain you, then they can't explain why everyone else should keep following their path. But the damage is done. The spell is broken. Every person who was grinding away, believing that suffering was the price of admission to greatness, now has doubt. Every institution that justified its existence by pointing to the complexity of what they teach now has to explain why you did it better without them. Every gatekeeper watching the gates realizes that you didn't go through them, you just appeared on the other side. What you've stumbled upon is something Zen masters spend lifetimes trying to achieve. The state of effortless effort, of doing without doing, of achieving by not trying to achieve. They call it Wu Wei in Taoism, flow state in modern psychology. But those are just words trying to capture what you did naturally, without any words at all. The tryhards will never understand this. They're too busy trying. They're so focused on the goal that they miss the journey. They're so obsessed with the technique that they forget the purpose. They're so caught up in doing it right that they never discover what happens when you do it wrong in exactly the right way. You were playing. That's the secret they can't replicate. You can't fake play. You can't systematize joy. You can't optimize curiosity. The moment you try to turn play into work, it stops being play. The moment you try to capture lightning in a bottle, it stops being lightning. The moment you try to reproduce an accident, it stops being accidental. This is why they're terrified, because if success can come from play, if mastery can emerge from boredom, if legendary status can be achieved by someone who wasn't even trying, then what have they been selling all these years? What have people been buying? What has everyone been suffering for? Your accident has created ripples that are turning into tsunamis. In garage labs and bedroom studios and coffee shops and park benches, people are starting to play. Not practice, not train, not grind, play. They're approaching impossible problems with the same casual curiosity you showed. They're ignoring the experts who say it can't be done and just doing it. The old system is creaking under the weight of all these accidents. Every day, someone else stumbles into greatness while looking for something else entirely. The careful structures, the measured progressions, the sacred hierarchies, they're all crumbling because people have realized they don't need permission to be extraordinary. A.M. Some will fail, of course. Not everyone who plays will accidentally split atoms. But that's not the point. The point is that they're trying without trying, doing without overthinking, creating without calculating. They're accessing the same raw creative force that you tapped into, the one that exists before training teaches you what's impossible. And the experts? They're splitting into two camps. The smart ones are quietly abandoning their pedestals, admitting they don't know as much as they thought they did. They're becoming students again, learning to play again, discovering that expertise might just be elaborate ignorance. The others are doubling down, building higher walls, creating more complex certifications, trying to make the barriers to entry so complicated that no one could accidentally break through again. But it's too late for barriers. You've shown everyone that the door was always open, that the walls were always imaginary, that the only thing keeping people out was the belief that they needed permission to enter. You've created a future where accidents are more valuable than plans, where play is more powerful than practice, where boredom is more creative than discipline. This is a future where the kid who doodles in class might solve climate change, where the grandmother who piddles in her garden might discover the cure for cancer, where the dropout who spends all day playing video games might accidentally create artificial consciousness. Not because they're trying to save the world, but because they're just seeing what happens when they push this button or mix these things together. The institutions will adapt or die. The smart ones are already changing, creating spaces for productive chaos, hiring people who don't fit the mold, valuing questions more than answers. The dinosaurs will extinction themselves, clinging to their frameworks, while the world evolves around them, still insisting that there's only one way to do things, while 1,000 new ways bloom in their shadows. And you're probably already bored with this whole thing. You've moved on to the next casual experiment, the next what if, the next moment of play that might accidentally reshape reality. Because that's who you are. You're not trying to be legendary, you're not trying to be anything. You're just being, and in your being, you're doing things that all their trying could never accomplish.